Congressman Donalds, thanks for being with us tonight here on the Hill. Appreciate the time, sir.
It's good to be with you. Thanks for having me.
All right, so you said stay tuned today. I know you're not going to tell me that you're jumping into the race, right? I get it. I understand. You could have revealed it today. You didn't. But let me ask you this. The two men that you name-checked, Governor DeSantis, he jumped into the race when he ran for governor in January of 2018. When I was a young Cub reporter back in April 2010, I remember Rick Scott telling us that he was jumping into the race then. Will you make your decision by mid-April, like Rick Scott did?
Not really going to get into it now. There's a lot of different things that we're thinking through, but I do got to say, really appreciative of President Trump and his support. It's something where, I think if we decide to make that jump, the mission's going to be about making sure that Florida just goes to higher and higher heights. So right now we're having internal conversations, nothing really to put out right now.
Okay.
But I'm really appreciative of the support from President Trump and the support pouring out from so many other people around the state and around the country.
So let me ask you, because for those who aren't sort of ingrained in Florida politics, there's a lot of speculation about Casey DeSantis. Could she run potentially, the governor's wife? Everyone is their own person, right? She is not Ron DeSantis. She is Casey DeSantis. There was a poll out just released. 57% of Republicans view her favorably. How should she be viewed if she decides to jump into the race? Should she be viewed as an extension of the governor's mansion or her own person?
I don't know. I think, look, every race is different. And so I think when you get into campaigns, no matter what the campaign is, every person has to run on their own merit, their own abilities, own talents, and their own record. And so I think if you even get into something like that in the future, really that'll be really to the judgment of the voters. Too hard to speculate on right now.
Okay.
I think the one thing that is clear is that, look, Governor DeSantis has done a great job for our state. We all know that. But there's going to be time to pick a new governor, and then we'll go on from there.
The News Press is the big outlet paper in your area there in Southwest Florida, which is part of what you represent. Here's their two main headlines right now. They say, many watch for Byron Donalds' entry into Florida governor's race. And then the story under that is federal job cuts have some worried that the National Park Service will falter. In Washington right now, Congressman, there's the big discussion over DOGE and federal layoffs. And it seems as if the layoffs have hit your community, have hit some of your constituents. So what is the balance there of backing the president's agenda, but seeing some of your constituents lose their job and now searching for a paycheck?
Well, first of all, a couple of things. Number one, a lot of the talk about federal employees going away is simply because Democrats and people who want overgrown, massive, and ubiquitous federal government don't like to see it being shrunk. I think if you're going to talk something about parks, let's be very clear. Other than driving through the gate to pay the fee to be able to get a parking spot, if you go to a national park, there's really not much engagement with any employees except if you're on a nature tour. And I understand that. We have a responsibility as a nation that is $36 trillion in debt, that's running $2 trillion every budget year, budget deficits. We have to begin to tighten our belts. And listen, I do understand that there are some things that are not going to be able to continue the way they were previously because you're going to have to shrink the size of the federal government. But that does not mean that the federal government will not be able to be responsive. Last thing, to the fear-mongering coming from the Democrats and in some parts of the media, I would urge you to stop it because all you're doing is raising issues that do not exist. Everybody's raising red herrings, not found in facts,
but there are some folks who are losing their job,
we have
and
a
that, I guess, is the
responsibility
balance.
to shrink the federal government. And I want to be very clear on this. Having a federal job is not a lifetime appointment. It's simply not. No job is a lifetime appointment. And there does come a time where you're going to have to decide to shrink the size and scope of the federal government. Unless, of course, you have $36 trillion that you're going to lend the United States in order for us to keep the whole thing going. We simply don't have the money. We have to be creative. We have to cut back. That is what we are going to have to do. It is the responsible thing that needs to be done for the future of this country.
Speaking of money, a poll out in your state in the recent days, top issues, housing and property insurance. 34% of Floridians say that's their top issue. 21% say the economy. At the end of the day, Congressman, it's coming back to people's money, people's wallets? What can they afford? What does it tell you right now that in your home state, there are still people who are saying, you know what? It costs too much.
Well, listen, the first thing I'll say, we do have an insurance crisis. We're going to have to go and think about this very broadly and kind of think outside the box on how we're going to fix it. A couple things that we probably could do is maybe look at reinsurance requirements, look at capital requirements. You got to have more insurance carriers in our state to be able to write policy. When you have more competition, prices stabilize. In some instances, prices lower. The second thing is, yes, it's more expensive to live in the state of Florida because everybody's moving to the state of Florida. And so the other piece is that because of the massive inflation created by Joe Biden and Kamala Harris and the Democrats, the price of building anything is up massively. All building product costs are up. This goes back to the other question you asked me, why you have to begin to shrink the size and scope of the federal government. If you want to get inflation under control, for the concern about affordability in our country, that starts with stopping the federal government from massively overspending. That's one of the solutions. When it comes to Florida, we're going to have to go through doing everything we can to fix the insurance crisis so that affordability is paramount for the people in Florida and also outside of Florida, the people in the rest of our country.
All right. We'll leave it there. Congressman Byron Donalds, a rising star within the Republican Party. Maybe the next Republican gubernatorial candidate in Florida. We'll see. But we'll leave it there. Congressman, thanks for being with us tonight here on the Hill. Appreciate it.